Hello, friends. Welcome to Two Witch Isle. My name is Charmaine, and here we talk about spirituality and mental health and kind of how they work together. And today I wanted to talk about a book that I had recently read that really had some good points in it that I don't think a lot of us take into consideration when either we're on a healing journey or maybe we're pushed into a healing journey. Um, and the book that I'm talking about is called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, and it's by Lindsay Gibson. And it's how to heal from distant, rejecting, or self involved parents. Now, some of us, we may not even realize that. Um, and that we might have some issues that were developed from very young in childhood just because of the manner in which our parents and our own relationship might have been. Um, there's a lot of really great things in this book that I read, and I just kind of jotted down a few of the things that really stood out in my mind, and they were usually from the summary of the whole chapter. There was a summary at the end of the chapter, which I really enjoy in a book, especially when it's about behavior. But anyway, one of those things was a lack of emotional intimacy creates emotional loneliness in both children and adults. Now think about that. That the lack of emotional intimacy creates emotional loneliness in both children and adults. So it makes sense that maybe if we did not get emotional intimacy in our childhood the way that we needed in order to grow, that maybe we didn't become fully formed adults ourselves. And that comes from adults that haven't fully formed themselves. And it's a problem that kind of perpetrates itself. Anyway, that was like one of my first really aha moments in this book that was like, well, duh, that makes sense to me. Emotional immaturity undermines people's ability to deal with the stress and be emotionally intimate with others. That emotional immaturity it makes it so that people just are not able to connect to us. And the big part in spirit, or the biggest thing in spirituality, is that interconnectedness between people. It's tapping into that connectedness, knowing that you're different, but tapping into the connectedness. And basically, emotional immaturity undermines this. You're unable to do this. And so if we had parents that were unable to connect to us emotionally, that creates issues within us as we grow. And that just really stood out in my mind. Another thing that stood out, emotionally immature people have a poor sense of personal history and resist being accountable for their past actions or future consequences. Um, and that's just saying that, like, that goes to show, and I've had this problem myself. In reading this book, I saw myself as the immature, the emotionally immature parent, which, I'm sure this book is guided so that you can find out. But at the same time, if you're really paying attention, you'll find that some of those things that your parents may have done to you that you never wanted to do yourself, you found yourself doing. And it's by no fault of your own. It's human. It's your parents, and living with your parents is like programming. It really does shape your life. At least it shapes your beliefs in your life. It means that emotionally mature people may not even remember when they hurt your feelings. They will have a hard time being accountable for hurting you in any way because they'll want to deny that. And they don't really see how there are future consequences to their actions because they are so in the place where they've got to defend themselves now. And I see this, I've seen this in my own behavior, and, it's one of those things, those traits that I do not like about myself. But I know I've been working really hard on that. I hold myself accountable now, um, for the consequences of any actions that I took when I was not at my emotional maturest. All right. So in this book, there are four types of emotionally immature parents. And actually, I am going to open the book and just read those because in these descriptions, it's not spot on, but I find myself, but I also find my parents. And that's a true tell as to where we get our behaviors from. And so, um, I'm going to go ahead and read the descriptions of the four types of emotionally immature parents. And this is from the book Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. Emotional parents is the first category. They are run by their feelings, swinging between over involvement and abrupt withdrawal. They are prone to frightening instability and unpredictability. Overwhelmed by anxiety, they rely on others to stabilize them. They treat small upsets like the end of the world, and they see other people as either rescuers or abandoners. The second type is driven parents. Driven parents are compulsively goal oriented and super busy. They can't stop trying to perfect everything, including other people. Although they rarely pause long enough to have true empathy for their children, they are controlling and interfering when it comes to running their children's lives. The next type is passive parent. Passive parents have a liaison affair mindset and avoid dealing with anything upsetting. They're less obviously harmful than the other types, but they have their own negative effects. They readily take a backseat to the dominant mate, even allowing abuse and neglect to occur by looking the other way. They cope by minimizing the problems and acquaintancing. I think that's how you say the word. And the fourth type of emotionally immature parent is a rejecting parent. Rejecting parents engage in a range of behaviors that make you wonder why they have a family in the first place. Whether their behavior is mild or severe, they don't enjoy emotional intimacy and clearly don't want to be bothered by children. Their tolerance for other people's needs is practically nil, and their interactions consist of issuing commands, blowing up, or isolating themselves from family life. Some of the milder types may engage in stereotyped family activities, but they still show little closeness or real engagement. They mostly want to be left alone to do their thing. If you recognize any one of those descriptions as maybe one of your parents, or maybe even you recognize yourself in one of those descriptions, you might actually want to read this book because it was very insightful. Children of these emotionally immature parents, they usually have like two main coping skills, one of two main coping skills. And I have found that I have been both of these at one time or another. The two main coping skills used by children of immature adults are internalizing and externalizing. Now, obviously, the externalizing child is the problem child, the child that's acting out, the child that is, just the problem to the parent. Um, but that's actually a coping mechanism. It's attempts to be seen by the parent. Even if the child is negatively seen by the child is seen by the parent, and that is the point of the behavior. And then there is the internalizing, which is it poses so many other problems. And I wasn't me personally, I wasn't much of an externalizer. I was more of an internalizer. I found that externalizing got me into trouble, and sometimes it just it was better to avoid that. So I would internalize everything, and at least when I internalized it, um, I felt like I was taking control of making people happy around me, which that wasn't the case at all. That was just me people pleasing. Internalizing and externalizing are the 2 coping mechanisms that children use, and they develop those, and then it goes right into adulthood. And those 2 systems don't necessarily hold up with time. Now, when the next witch's cauldron that I do, I'm going to pick some of the things that I read in this book or skills that helped me kind of discover where I was. Um, I have already done one of there's plenty of exercises in this book to tell you what kind of parent you had, to tell you if maybe you experienced some kind of trauma from the parent that you had, something that you're holding on to, or a belief about you or your life itself that doesn't serve your life now, that only holds true to a child's life and not an adult's life. Sometimes we carry a lot of beliefs from our childhood, and it comes around how our parents parented us. It's no fault of theirs, it's no fault of yours. It's just the way that life worked out. We don't really have control over some of the things that are done to us or some of the things that happen to us. But we do have control over making sure that we heal from those things properly so that we do not carry those memories into every new present moment that comes to us. We want that stuff firmly logged into the past. And by working on both my mental health and my spirituality, I've done kind of both of those things. As I read this book, I have gone through from both what life used to like for me, what life used to look like for me, to what life looks like now, because those are 2 very different places. There was a time in my life where I never thought I would make it through the next 5 years. I could not plan out 5 years because I honestly didn't know if I'd live that long. My health was always shaky. And when my health was shaky, it meant like a lot of migraines. And when you have a lot of head pain, sometimes all you want to do is take your head off for a little while, not permanently, but sometimes it may seem permanently. Anyway, and I have been through a whole heck of a lot on the journey of healing. And what I write now in some of these quizzes looks a lot better than it did in past. And so I kind of look at both aspects of it. How far have I come? And that in turn gives me the sense of gratitude that I have been working on it for so long. And gratitude is a great thing to have. Anyway, this book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents: How to Heal from Distant, Rejecting, or Self Involved Parents, by Lindsay C. Gibson. I found it on Amazon. I do believe it was available on Kindle and audio as well. If you don't like to actually read yourself, you can listen to it. Um, I will be bringing some of these quizzes over to the Witch's Cauldron, and just kind of walking through them real quick. Some of the ones that I think are more meaningful that can help you on that spiritual journey, whether it is just healing from parents or if it's healing in general, or maybe you're just working on your spirituality. It doesn't mean that any of this wouldn't help. Um, anyway, I highly recommend this book. And again, we'll be doing a little more of it later on. Well, that is all I really have for this episode of To Which I'll. As always, take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Of course, if you are struggling and you are in crisis, do not hesitate to call the crisis line, which you can reach by dialing 988. Remember, there's always somebody out there to listen to you, even if it's not who you think it should be. Don't hesitate if you're struggling. 988. And until next time, be safe, light and love, everyone.